So when this story came across my feed, I really couldn't believe my eyes. Because this is like straight out of a dystopian sci-fi novel here. The Pentagon, this is according to Business Insider, is moving toward letting AI weapons autonomously decide to kill humans. Whoo! Oh boy. All right, so I'm learning about this the same time as you guys. I haven't read this article yet. Let's dive into it. The U.S. is among countries arguing against new laws to regulate AI-controlled killer drones. The U.S., China, and others are developing so-called killer robots. Critics are concerned about the development of machines that can decide to take human lives. So right off the bat here, let me just say, this is actually a great example of how and why the UN and international law needs a total revamping. And, you see this with the slaughter in Gaza, too. You saw this with the war in Iraq. It's like the UN exists and functions at the behest of the U.S., at the suggestion of the U.S., because we are the world superpower. We have the biggest military by a mile. And so, the way the UN works, the Security Council, a bunch of countries get a veto, like big, powerful countries get a veto. And it's like, yeah, maybe that shouldn't be the case. Maybe if a majority of countries vote to say, let's not allow killer robots that act autonomously, maybe they should get the final say. So in other words, it should be that like the General Assembly is more powerful than the UN Security Council. That's the way it should be, but clearly that's not the case. All right, let's see. The deployment of AI-controlled drones that can make autonomous decisions about whether to kill human targets is moving closer to reality, the New York Times reported. Lethal autonomous weapons that can select targets using AI are being developed by countries including the US, China, and Israel. Shocker. The use of the so-called killer robots would mark a disturbing development, say critics, handing life and death battlefield decisions to machines with no human input. Several governments are lobbying the UN for a binding resolution restricting the use of AI killer drones, but the US is among a group of nations, which also includes Russia, Australia, and Israel, who are resisting any such move, favoring a non-binding resolution instead, the Times reported. See, that's usually what goes on with the General Assembly. The General Assembly, it's like, let's see how everybody feels about this. Let's ask all these nations what you think about this. And the vote will be like 94% in a certain direction, and the US could just be like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and hard disagree. And then we win. So the UN needs to go the same path as the League of Nations. Like, it needs to be totally revamped. This is just too... it's crazy. This is crazy. Quote, this is really one of the most significant inflection points for humanity, Alexander Kement, Austria's chief negotiator on the issue, told The Times. What's the role of human beings in the use of force? It's an absolutely fundamental security issue, a legal issue, and an ethical issue. The Pentagon is working toward deploying swarms of thousands of AI-enabled drones, according to a notice published earlier this year. In a speech in August, U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks said technology like AI-controlled drone swarms would enable the U.S. to offset China's People's Liberation Army numerical advantage in weapons and people. Jesus Christ. So in other words, they're like, look, when World War III happens, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. When World War III happens, China's got a lot more people, so we need some sort of an advantage, so we got to get these autonomous drones that could kill people because... we have, 340 million people in this country, and they have over 1 billion, so got to give ourselves a Jesus Christ. Quote, we'll counter the PLA's mass with mass of our own, but ours will be harder to plan for, harder to hit, harder to beat. Frank Kendall, the Air Force Secretary, told The Times that AI drones will need to have the capability to make lethal decisions while under human supervision. Quote, individual decisions versus not doing individual decisions is the difference between winning and losing. And you're not going to lose, he said. I don't think people we would be up against would do that, and it would give them a huge advantage if we put that limitation on ourselves. The New Scientist reported in October that AI-controlled drones have already been deployed on the battlefield by Ukraine in its fight against the Russian invasion, though it's unclear if any have taken action resulting in human casualties. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Look, it's hard to read this and then walk away with any conclusion other than we are going to get into this Black Mirror-style, totally dystopian future sci-fi situation. Because look, I'm like, if you told somebody in like 1743, hey, just so you know, there's going to come a day where one bomb could wipe out entire cities. They'd be like, first of all, what's a bomb? Second of all, what? Actually, they would kind of know what a bomb is. They'd be like, what? How is that that's not possible. And then we developed nukes. And like, ever since that cat was out of the bag, you know, we nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the argument was, well, this will make it so nobody will ever use it again. But like, are we really convinced that that's the case? Are we really convinced they're never going to be used again? Because they could. And we're entering a severe period of disorder, the likes of which we haven't seen for a very long time. Arguably, World War II was the last time you had global disorder to this effect. The war on terror was horrible, but when you talk about Russia invading Ukraine, you talk about what's happening in Israel and Gaza having the potential to spiral out, where Iran gets involved, and Lebanon and Hezbollah, and Yemen's already involved, and the U.S. gets involved. I mean, look, you're really, really playing with fire here. And it seems to be some sort of a law of nature. Like, if you can think of something futuristic, some sort of futuristic weaponry, if you can conceptualize of it, they'll try to make it. And then eventually it'll be all systems go, and a whole bunch of places will have the autonomous murder robots. And by the way, there's another big thing to take away from this, right? So scientists spend all this time developing weapons of death, whether it be nuclear weapons, whether it be chemical weapons or biological weapons, or predator drones, like the traditional drones, or various, like the F-35-2, the new fighter plane. There's all this money and energy and resources that get put into how are we going to kill people more effectively and efficiently. But like, we don't put 1/20th the amount of effort into, can we get people health care? Can we get people higher wages? Can we create unions? Can we use science and technology to make the future good for everybody? There's like no effort in this technology to improve lives. It's all for like look at our military budget, man. Look at our military. It goes up every single year, regardless of the fact that the Pentagon failed 6 audits in a row and can't account for 61% of its money. 61%. We're like, hey, blank check, increase the amount we give them every single year and just spend on whatever. What if we put this amount of effort into like curing cancer or heart disease or strokes or anything, right? Anything positive. But no, it's all towards this. And now we're at the point where it's like, somehow millions of people in the U.S. don't have healthcare, but now we're going to get autonomous AI weapons that can decide on their own when to kill people. This is crazy. This is crazy. Man. Stuff like this makes me want to go live on like a secluded island and like just check out of society. Because it feels like this is... To not recognize that this is a horrible idea and nobody should go down this track. We've already realized, like, we let the cat out of the bag with nuclear weapons, and it's kind of terrible that they exist. And now it's like a struggle to regulate. They're like, oh my God, Israel has them. Oh, Pakistan has them. Shit, they could be fundamentalists. Oh my God, what if Saudi Arabia buys some off the shelves one from Pakistan? And like, the cat was out of the bag with that. Everybody's like, this is crazy. But now we're going to do the next big thing, which is psycho. Autonomous machines that can murder people. Like, what? And then, so first it'll be used when it comes to war, so abroad, but then eventually this will be used domestically, where you have like some RoboCop-like situation. Do we really want that? Do any of us really want that? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't really matter what we want, because they're going to move ahead with it anyway, which is like the whole core of the problem. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.